Welcome back. Um, as I said before in a lot of my other videos, uh, I try to go into subjects and do deep dives and research down rabbit holes to get subjects for my stories. Um, but doing that research and looking up information for a couple of different storylines, a couple of things I stumbled into, and of course, you go down that rabbit hole, and more information pops up that you have to fine tune. And I came up with this one piece, and I want to just share it with you guys. Um, Not sure what story to use it for or whether to put into a book format, but I just wanted to at least get this part out. So the key thing is, what are you worth? Now, that's a loaded question because that means different things to different people. It could be financial to some. It could be your role and place in a community, where you're at. Um, so worth has a different meaning for different people depending on where you're at in life and so forth. But let's look at it from financial as far as the internet is concerned. Okay. So when I say what are you worth, is what are you worth to companies and to yourself. So to companies, over the lifetime that you've been on the internet and will be on the internet, um, you could be worth $1 million or millions of dollars uh, to those companies. Now, every time that you go online and just do a single search, on the top of your bar, there's going to be, for about a fraction of a second, the bar will start and stop. During that fraction of a second, they're having an auction on your information, where you're going to the highest bidder. And then that person will track you to the rest of your transactions online for that website. And every time you go to another website, the same process happens over and over again. So you get bid on those parts on that part. You also, when you're on any social media sites, a profile is built on you, you're tracked everywhere you go, and all that information can be sold to anywhere from 10 to 30 something accounts or brokers, I should say, that actually will sell that information about you to other companies to market for you. So having that type of a platform, that type of tracking on you, makes a difference. You have social media companies that will create shadow accounts based on being able to read your content, your contact information, who you email, when you email, where you shop at, and build a profile on people that are not in their social media group and build on that point so that now they have marketing information on a friend that doesn't even go to that social media site that you go to, but they have an account for them, a shadow account, and they can use that to market for those people. Now, when you get, there was a line that goes, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Well, that's somewhat true with Facebook, X, and any other social media accounts that's out there. You're giving them the permission to profit off of you, of selling your data, your information, and even governments, even the U.S. government now, that would need a search warrant to get information, can actually go to a third-party company and just buy it, which makes a whole bunch of different issues on that point. So when I come to the point of what are you worth, here's the point. Would you pay $10, $30 a year to Facebook, for example, not for them to sell any of your information and be able to, know that when you're online, you're private. No one knows where you're traveling. No one knows where you go to. and keep that information? Or would you rather them make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars off you every year just to get a free service? I don't know, that's a tricky question. Me, if you're going to sell my information, um, give me a kickback. If you're going to make over the next 10, 20 years $1 million, $2 million off of selling my information, um, yeah, why don't you give me 10, 15% of that back? Because if you're making that off of me, you're making that off of every other person. And when you got hundreds of millions to, of people on there, you know, give us back some of that money. Yeah. But that's not what it's designed for. It's designed to take the money and make certain people rich and richer and richer and richer, increase their wealth by taking it away from you. So think about what your wealth and your time is worth. Now, social media is not going anywhere. Let's be honest. We all use it at one point or another. We all search for things all the time. But our privacy and certain laws in different countries, and especially here in the United States, you know, for search and seizure, your privacy laws all get violated through a lot of these social media companies, unfortunately. So now they're profiting and off of us. Now, you would think if you delete the cookies in your computer every month or go, that it would help reduce some of that tracking. To be honest, you would have to get rid of all your apps off your phone, um, and get rid of all your social media accounts. And let's be honest, no one's going to do that. That is the easiest way of being tracked. Uh, when the government went after TikTok and said it was, tracking them and stuff like that, realistically, if they were concerned about security, every government phone would have 0 apps on it. It would only have a secured app that they need to communicate with each other. Other than that, no. You would have to get rid of the web, get rid of the internet, get rid of everything. Because the honest truth is, you can be tracked back years on your search history. All that data is there. So if a restaurant wants to open up in your community and says, "Hey, how many people used to travel, used to go to my restaurant, in a different city that now live closer here?" They know. I mean, I went to New Orleans to shoot a couple of movies. Um, and I finally went through my Google search history. It had every place I stopped, um, where I was on location for the film, um, every restaurant I ate at, the hotels that I slept at, and it had a complete map of where I was driving. For years, I could search everything on there, and that information is available for anybody that wants to build. And for a while, it was overly blunt. If I drove past a certain restaurant, I would get an alert saying, "Hey, you're next to such and such. They have a deal on fries, or they have a deal on the chicken, or they have a deal on this." Um, would just pop up on my phone. So they gradually got rid of that because people realizing they were being spied on. Um, but it still keeps that information in there, and it still tracks it, and it still has that set up for you. So that information is being sold. About 10, I'm going to say roughly 10, maybe 12 years ago, a bunch of reporters got together and took out their phones and left them turned off because there was a thing about Alexia and these other types of programs that were, the rumors were that they were spying on you, taking your information, reporting what you were doing, even when they were supposed to be off. And when you told them to turn on, that they were always on. So the reporter sat down and they put the phones on the table and they started talking, not about business, not about anything else. They started talking about um, going on trips, places they'd never been to, places they had no intention of going to, just making stuff up at that point. Um, Roughly in about, I would say, less than a month, they were getting advertisements for discounts to go to those places, to go to Alaska, to take a cruise. Um, so all this information that never popped up in their marketing profiles were now popping up on their phones now and on all of their accounts. So wherever they went to, there would be some advertisement for where they went to. Now, cookies were originally designed to be put onto the phone to help speed up the process of going to websites that you went to before. They were designed just for those websites to keep certain icons uh, and images and GIFs in there to make it faster. They've grown and become much more powerful than that. Uh, so when you delete them, they should only come back on if you go back to that site. Well, I went onto a site maybe 15 years ago to buy a gift for a friend. Right? Checked out the site, didn't like it. I went back and went to my regular spot to buy the gift that I wanted and gave it as a gift. Deleted my cookies, didn't pay any attention to it. And then a year later I looked back and that site's cookies were still on there. Well, I haven't been on that site for years. Deleted it again. Within less than 2 minutes, that cookie was added back to my site. So that company or that marketing company was tracking my IP address to my phone, to my computer, and putting that cookie back on that computer every time I deleted it. So it can keep tracking me because I went onto their site once. So think about how many other companies will do that, but will have a generic name for their cookies on there to link in so that they can constantly keep tracking you, hoping you're going to go back to their site or sell information to advertise to go back to their site. So all these people are buying information and selling it and selling it and selling it. Now, like I said, where's our cut? We should get a cut of that. Um, so when I say, what is your worth? Take it to mean whatever you like. Your time, your effort, your energy when you're online. Um, when it comes to the internet, of course, or is it financial? Should we be uh, a part of that? You know, or should they give everyone certain shares of stocks for the company and let us profit on top of that? You know, you've been with Facebook for X amount of years, here's X amount of stocks. You've been with X for X amount of years, here are X amount of stocks. You know, every social media company should automatically enroll you and give you stocks to build onto their company. They're going to sell you information. You should get something for it. You know, yeah. So that's pretty much, I just wanted to get that out because it was a story twist plot and I ended up going down that rabbit hole and researching cookies and researching that information and really started going down the numbers of how many companies at one time, whenever you're on a certain platform, it could be, I found some that had almost 30 cookies will drop tracking you from just one website. Some will be 5, some will be less, and some share the same accounts that you can't tell, which website they came from. They purposely hide that. So I feel we should be compensated for that. Or at least, change the laws so that we know who's tracking us from what cookie that's in our system so that, we can delete them properly if we don't want them. We shouldn't have to opt out of something we never really opted into if you don't want to be tracked. And even when they say we don't sell your cookies, yeah, they still do. You know, if one website owns another website, they may share it to the other website, and that other website may sell it. So that 100% that they don't sell, I'm not 100% sure that that's 100% accurate. There has to be some extra mechanism. They're not going to lose all that money. So think about it. What is your wealth? What are you worth when it comes to the internet? Right. I'll leave you at that. I'll have some more uh, items coming up and some more storylines, uh, and I'll build from that. I just wanted to throw this one out there. All right. Have a good day.